I am really pleased to welcome Adam and Rick, who are joining us from Kirmada. Kirmada is a great piece of software that has been written for virtual assistants, and it has been designed around the way we work, and they actively communicate with the industry and hold roundtables to find out how they can improve what people love, what people don't love, just so that that software is constantly developing and growing around what we do. So I've been using it for a couple of months, and I thought it would be really helpful for you guys to just learn about what it does. No hard sell. There's an affiliate link if you want to buy at the end, but it's just to show you what it does, how it works, and how it can help you in your business. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Adam and Rick. Rick will be beavering away answering all of your questions in the chat. So bear with him because I expect there's going to be quite a few coming up as you all want to know more. And at the end, we'll pop our affiliate link on. And if you want to try it out, then that gives you 10% off. So without further ado, Rick and Adam, I shall pass over to you and let you tell everybody all about it.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate your time and being here. And as Gwen said, Rick and I are here to show you Kirmada, which is software that we've developed particularly for the VA industry. And just to give you some background on why we're here and what's happening, is we realized a few years ago that particularly for people who have multiple clients or work in a freelance sort of environment, that we have you end up in a situation where you're working in a web browser nearly all of the time. So it's become one of the most important pieces of software in your arsenal. So, in days gone by, you used to download software onto your desktop, you would use it there and save all the files locally. And now all of that stuff is being done inside your web browser. So Canva, and QuickBooks and Xero and whatever else, Asana, all of these massively complicated systems are in a web browser. And if you have multiple clients, it means that for all of the people, all of the services that you use online, the tabs get multiplied depending on how many clients you've got. So you end up needing to be logged into the same thing multiple times to be using to service different clients, and it ends up becoming a bit of a mess. And well, I'll show you why why we've decided that this needed fixing. So I'm just going to share my screen and show you Kirmada, if you can all see that. I've got, yep,
that looks
thank you.
good.
Thank you for the nods. And what we decided we needed to do was, it would be ideal if instead of websites being at the top of the tree on all the work that you're doing, the client was at the top of the tree. And then when you're working on a client, the only things that you can see are the stuff that you need for that client. So the only things you're logged into are what you need right there. And if you need to change focus from one client to another client, we wanted to just be able to do that in a couple of clicks so that everything gets replaced. And that is what these workspaces are. So what you're seeing on the screen here is the Kirmada home screen. I've set up 4 fictitious clients, so beach breaks, fashion shop, etc. And every time you have a new client or you want to set something up, you simply add workspace and create another workspace for a client. And I'll show you what happens when you go inside one, which is quite simply, it's a web browser. So this is all very intuitive. You all know how to use your web browser. So what happens in here, you can see across the top here, I've got these tabs open. So I've got a Slack channel open. I've got a Trello board, Outlook, Stripe, whatever it is that I need to use, that I use on a regular basis. I go into this client, get everything across the top that I want. And the way we encourage VAs to use this is to log into each one of these resources and get to where you do your work. So, for example, in Slack, you want to maybe open up the Slack channel that's relevant, maybe a Trello board, etc. Inboxes, whatever it is that you need. Open them all up, get them where you need them. And then we've got this feature called stickies, where if you right click on one of these tabs and say save to stickies, which is the second option down there, what happens is you'll see a icon appears on the left hand side here. And that's a sticky. So it acts like a super bookmark that takes you exactly to where you want to be to work on Slack. So you do that with all of your important resources for that client, and they all appear down the left hand side. And that means, whenever I come into this workspace, regardless of what's happening, I can come into a completely blank workspace and instantly get the things I need up. And notice that I'm not going into anything that's got anything to do with another client. These are all signed into exactly the client that I need them to be signed into on the screens that I need them to be. And so I can resume work from exactly where I left off. So, it's just really easy to see what I'm doing in this client. And if I want to change clients, up here on the URL bar where you normally, so you put in your URLs here, and then to the right of this, we have a drop down of your other clients. So you can literally just click on a different client, and all of the tabs across the top have changed. All of the stickies down the left-hand side have changed. And now I'm ready to work for this client. So I don't have to muck about logging out of things, logging into things, doing whatever I want to do or what I don't want to do. I can just do what I do want to do, which is get on with my work. And that means that, your focus is instant. You don't have to hunt around on your screen for all the different things that you need to get on with this client. You simply go into their workspace. And as soon as you go into their workspace, I don't know if you can see on the top right-hand corner of the screen here, there is a clock ticking up. So the workspace knows which client I'm working for. So it knows that if it's going to track time, it's tracking time for this client. And I can decide what category on the timesheet I want to put this down to. So for example, if I've come in here because the client's phoned me, I can just click phone call. And now it's being recorded as a phone call in the timesheet. And I can optionally add notes to this as well to make a note about who called or whatever, just by right clicking and saying, I want to add a note to the timesheet. So, I can annotate the timesheets as I go along if I want to. But the particularly powerful thing about this is quite often these incidental things go unrecorded when you're using traditional timekeeping software like Toggle or whatever, because a 5-minute interruption often gets forgotten about. And the 5-minute interruption isn't necessarily the important thing. The important thing is the fact that it has a phone call tends to go on to other tasks. So you take a phone call from the client, they say, have you got a couple of minutes just to discuss the project we were talking about yesterday? And when you get off that call, you invariably start opening tabs to look at the stuff that you needed to look at for that phone call, and remember that you had that you needed these resources for later. And it's quite easy to lose 10, 15, 20 minutes just mucking around after that phone call. And normally that goes well, quite often that will go unrecorded. In Kirmada, it doesn't. You simply go into the workspace you need, pop into a different workspace, record what's happening. Maybe I'm in a meeting now, and that's it. I can now happily do my work, whether it's inside the workspace or on a phone or on a Zoom call or whatever, and it's all being recorded for me. So though that was the central point of making these workspaces, was the fact that we wanted to be able to swap between clients really easily, and to be logged in to the same thing multiple times if we want to be. So if you manage, say, Gmail inboxes for several clients, you could be logged into all of them at the same time. You just click between the workspaces. The workspaces don't know anything about each other, so they all act completely independently. And that means that you can be logged into the same websites multiple times using different accounts, and it's absolutely fine. It just works. There are a few other features that we decided that ought to be a part of these workspaces. So, for example, one of the most important things, obviously, we're talking about time recording. So the timesheets gives us various reports that we can have a look at and see how we're going during the month. So this looks quite a lot like Toggle. Some of the reports that they do. So I can see, for example, what stuff, what days I've worked on for this client this month. Over on the right hand side here, I've opted to give this client a retainer of £350 a month, and I can see that I've already busted that. It's 125% of the retainer has been used. So if you charge by retainer, then you can put your retainers in your hourly rate. If you don't charge retainers, but you know your client has a sensitivity at a certain billing rate, so maybe they get upset if you bill them more than £200 a month or whatever, then you can put that down as the budget, and it works in exactly the same way. Um, and you can get various breakdowns of the time that you spent. So I can click on, for example, a category of work, and see which days I worked on that category, what the billable value of that work was so far this month. Um, I can change this to different views of the data, so I can have a look at a daily breakdown, so on the first of the second, second of the second, etc., exactly which categories of work or which projects I worked on, and the time slots that I worked on them. And it's in this screen that I can also edit anything that I want to edit. You know, I can remove any of these entries if they're there in error, or I can add completely new entries with this add entry button here as well. So, you know, if I've got offline meetings that I need to record, that's easy enough to do as well. And then another view is a table format where you can see, again, the projects that have been worked on this month, and then on a day-by-day basis, you know, which projects have been worked on. So it's same data, different view. And all of this, you can choose which periods you look at. So I can look at, you know, different months. I can set different start and end dates for this, and all of this is exportable. So I can send this out to a spreadsheet for analysis and to raise an invoice from. So you know, you can send off the hard data to the client if they want that as well. Um, the other things that we put in this is we decided that obviously if you're working for a client, quite often you will need to manage their calendars, or need to have their tasks, set yourself tasks in the calendars and projects. So in the workspace, each workspace has its own calendar, and this calendar currently has two functions. It will soon have a third. The first function is here you can add tasks. So a task it's a to-do list, if you like. So I can set up a task, give it a title, a start date, and optionally an end time and date if I want to. Assign a timesheet category for it, and then add a description if I want to. And then when I start this, it will instantly take me into the right workspace, into the browser, so that I can start work, and it will record that into the timesheet to say, you know, this task has been started. This is particularly useful for tasks that you have a budget for. So if you don't want to spend more than 2 hours on a project, then by giving it 2 hours in here, then it'll show you whether you've gone over or under the budget for that task in your timesheets. The other thing that we can do with this calendar is we can attach it to some social media channels. So at the moment it's Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and I can schedule my posts from here. So it works like a very mini Buffer or Hootsuite, in that I can create a post, attach it to a social channel, add some media to it. So I can, you know, add an image. I think it's time for a holiday, so we'll add that one. And also you can edit those images in line as well, so you can crop them to the right sizes. And I won't write out a post now, but you enter the details of your post, and you can then schedule this for future posting. So really handy to be able to sit down on a Monday morning, do the posts for the week or the month, and then just schedule them in here. And then you can preview all of these and see exactly how they're going to look on the different channels. So you can make sure that you haven't gone over the number of characters or whatever. And then when you're happy with it, you can either publish that right now, or you can schedule that, like I say, in the future. So you can schedule that to go out daily or weekly or monthly, or on Christmas Day, or whatever you want to do, so that you've got all of the scheduling done. It's a simple post scheduler, so it doesn't replace a fully fledged tool like Buffer, but what it does do is allows you to have everything for the posting in one place. And of course, when you're working in here, it's recording this to the timesheet, so it knows you're working in this. So you know you're not sitting there on a different application forgetting to charge for your time. I did say that there's a third thing being added to this. We're currently working on syncing this with uh, Google Calendars and Outlook calendars. That will be released later on in the summer, but that means that you'll have a three-way sync between calendars if you want that. So if your client uses Google Calendar, then everything they do will appear in this calendar and vice versa. And if you sync it to Outlook as well, it will appear there as well. So it just means that you can then do everything from this one calendar. Um, I hit upon there that fact that we had files, and the reason why I did that is because we do have a file system built into this as well. So for every workspace that you create, it creates a file, a top level folder for that client for you. And then it works in much the same way as Dropbox or OneDrive would, where you can create folders underneath it, upload files to it. Like I say, you can preview any of the files that are in here, and with uh, images, you can edit them right here as well. So, I can say that I want to adjust the brightness or contrast or whatever I want to do, crop it to a different file size, etc. All of that can be done inline, and it just saves it back into the file system for you. Um, and this means that obviously, if your client has given you assets that they authorize for your use, like logos and different graphics, you can have those stored inside their workspace, so you've always got instant access to them. If they've got policy documents or anything, anything else that you're working on, privacy documents, or if you're doing copywriting for them, all of that stuff can be kept here, and that way it's all instantly at hand. And again, it's being stored safely. It's on the cloud. It's all stored on Google's cloud storage, so it's not going anywhere. um and you're able to access it instantly from inside your workspaces. And and I think, the last thing that sort of ties everything together is the fact that these workspaces are shareable. So beach breaks, fashion shop, cotton organic, etc. If I want to share that with somebody else, all I need to do is click add team, add their email addresses here, and then send the invite to them. They will receive an invite by email saying, if you want to accept, just click here. And when they do accept, the workspace appears on their screen exactly as it is here. When they go into the workspace, they won't see any of the tabs across the top. They're private to each individual user. But what they will see is all of the stickies that you put down the left-hand side. So they have instant access to the main resources for that client in terms of the web resources, but they also have access to then all of the files if you want to share the files. So you've onboarded them with the resources they need to use here, the files that they need to use. They can use the calendar, they can use the social media if you've attached that. And you can share all of the passwords and account details for these. So I don't know if you noticed when I added the team, I have the option to share passwords with the team. And what that means is if they then click on one of those stickies on the left-hand side and go to Slack or wherever, the username and password will be pre-filled with your account details. If you want them to use your account for this client, then all they have to do is click login. You don't actually have to share passwords. You don't have to email them the password and have them write it down on a post-it note. They won't be able to see the password, but they'll be able to just hit login and get access to those resources that you want to share with them. And the flip side of that coin is, I mean, that makes onboarding an associate, or if you hire somebody to help with a graphic design or copywriting or web design or something like that, you can onboard them instantly with everything they need. But it also means you can offboard them instantly as well, because you'd simply remove their access from the team and the workspace has disappeared from Kirmada from them, and they no longer have access to anything. So from a GDPR perspective, that's really handy, because it just means they lose everything to do with that client. And of course, when they're working for you in that team, all of the work that they do is going onto your timesheet, so you get to bill for them. if I show you, so I'll go back to the workspace properties, just cracky, click on the right thing. Uh, Editing the workspace. You for each person that gets added to the team, they will appear here by name, and you can put in their hourly cost price, the hourly rate that you charge them out at. If you want to set them a personal budget because you don't want to pay them more than £500 a month, etc., you can put that here. And then set them a default category. So if they are there simply for copywriting, then you make copywriting their default category. And then every time they go into the workspace, that'll be pre-selected for them, so that they don't forget to do that. And because Kirmada then knows what the billing rates are, it means that it can do the P&L for you. So it can show you uh, how much you need to pay each person, how much you're going to be charging for them, what the P&L is, etc. So all of that then comes out on the timing reports for you. So all of the work that they do goes onto your timesheet automatically. They don't get to see any of the billing information on your teams. So they don't need to know how much you're billing the client or what your retainer is with the client. None of that is visible to them, unless you make that visible to them. And yeah, and I think that is, about it. I mean, that's a very quick overview of Kirmada and what we're doing to make working with multiple clients, an absolute breeze. So, I'm sure many of you, if you looked at your desktops right now, you'd see that you've got quite a few tabs open. And this just makes it so that you can have those tabs inside their workspaces, and swap between clients instantly. And I'll just leave this on one slight anecdote. Um, when the reason we first started creating Kirmada was because I used to own a small web design agency, and we had all of these similar problems. We often didn't know when somebody was working on a client or if they took a call, etc. And we had this mess of stuff across the screens to do with all the clients that we were working with and had retainers with. And the very first month Rick and I got Kirmada up and running, and it was, it was barely a skeleton of what is available today, but it did this time recording and the browsing, being able to switch between workspaces was working. And in that very first month, uh, I billed an extra £800 to my clients that I hadn't would never have known they had charged up. So, what we're trying to achieve here is not only a productivity gain for you, but also a billing gain. So, all of that incidental time that never gets recorded mounts up. We think on average, it could be as much as £400 or £500 a month if you were to charge for everything you actually did. And so you get the productivity gain and you get this opportunity to either bill more money for the work you've done, or at least know what the P&L is on that client. So, for a client that habitually busts the hours that they're paying you for, constantly moving the goalposts, which happens quite a lot with freelance clients, it's important to know that they're doing that and have the data to back it up, because that gives you the opportunity to then either say, this retainer is too cheap, we need to renegotiate the retainer at some point in the future, or we need to draw these boundaries and put you back into your box, so that if you're only paying me for 5 or 10 hours a month, then you get that 5 or 10 hours a month. And the benefit to that is it frees up space for a new client, or often does. So, you got the same amount of hours in the day, but you can get more billable work done in those hours. And you have the benefit of it being less overwhelming, less stressful, and a whole lot more enjoyable to do. So that is kind of the presentation done for Kirmada. I'd be interested to know if there are any questions.
There's a
Ricky.
couple. I've been answering a few, Adam.
Yeah.
You've been busy, Rick.
Yes, been some very good questions. I have to say, it's very good. There's a couple that I wasn't quite sure of. One was a good question from is it Lee, saying, can tasks be recurring?
Not yet. That is coming. Recurring tasks is one that has been asked for by quite a few VAs and is on the roadmap. Hopefully, that'll appear in the next 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, and also I mentioned Chrome extensions is on our roadmap as well.
Chrome extensions is a very important one. the framework, just so that you understand it, the framework that we've built Kirmada on, it was very difficult to bring Chrome extensions into it. That has now been resolved, so we're hoping that we'll be starting on that project next month. So sometime over the next, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how long it'll take us to do, probably a couple of months. So hopefully by early summer, all Chrome extensions will be supported, including LastPass, Dashlane, Grammarly, all of those lovely things will be available inside Kirmada.
And another question which I couldn't answer, but I thought the answer was probably no, but is can you update your stories on the social media? Is that?
No, at the moment, unfortunately, it's just a very simple post scheduler. Um, It'd be interesting to know though what features you commonly use when you're in social media. So the things that are used the most often, we would always look to incorporate those in Kirmada as we develop. Obviously, when it comes to doing an integration with something like social media, the sky is the limit with the way you can develop. Unfortunately, development costs an awful lot of money. So what we need to do is provide the best bang for the buck. So what we're always really open to having conversations with our users, and VAs in particular are very good at telling us what they need. And we encourage that. We have conversations with people all day, every day about what it is they want to see in Kirmada. And it's very likely that if there are things that several of you need and use, that will get bumped to the top of the roadmap for development, and we'll get it done.
Yeah, we are very good at responding to people, and we had a round table with some virtual assistants last month in Oxford. Some great ideas there. So yeah, just keep them coming, because we want to make this as good as possible.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. And you've been bombarded with questions there, so I'll let Rick carry on typing for a little while. But yeah, just to say, these guys really do listen when you say, actually, I could do with something happening on here that helps me to do this, that, or the other. And then they will do their utmost to try and build that into it, because they want this to work for the VA industry. I have a couple of questions that I've been sent by somebody who had to go. One of the things that us VAs are always very twitchy about is confidentiality, data protection, and etc. With regards to the passwords and any data sharing and what have you, it's really helpful if we are doing our GDPR compliance to be able to do our due diligence and just check where servers are and what you have in place to make sure that our passwords are safe and make sure the data is not being shared anywhere it shouldn't be. If we email you with a request for that, are you able to send us that information, or is that on your website? Where can we access that, just for our records?
Yeah, it's all there on the website under the privacy policy. Just to cover a couple of the most common questions, data is all stored in the EU. And all of the data in terms of passwords and user IDs is encrypted on your desktop before it's sent out to the cloud, and then it's unencrypted on your desktop again when you're using it. So we don't store any passwords or anything in an unencrypted form. In terms of the privacy about what we can see, I think a lot of people, need to ask that, because obviously we do need to store some data, because, if you create a workspace called Beach Breaks, then we'll be able to see that you've created a workspace. I don't think we can actually see what it's called, but we can see that you've created a workspace and how much time you spent in it. And we would potentially, if we really, really wanted to dig, possibly be able to see the URLs that you had open the last time you closed it. But I mean, that would be really digging. It's not something that we do as part of the processing. But that is the limit of what we can see anyway. So everything else is confidential.
Great. That's always nice to hear. Somebody also asked if there are any finance softwares that integrate with your timekeeping. And if they don't, are you able to use Kirmada with software like Zapier and the like?
Short answer is no, there is no integrations at the moment. We're looking at ways that we could integrate into Xero, QuickBooks, and Sage so that you could raise an invoice automatically at the end of a period or month. That's some way off being done. In terms of Zapier, no. I mean, the best that we can do at the moment is you can export all the timesheet data to a spreadsheet, and then Zapier could use that. If I mean, again, if there are specific case studies of what you want done, then please let us know, because it may be that it's quite a simple thing to incorporate, and and it's a big win for you, and then we'll be able to do it.
Yeah, great. And is there a limit to the number of social media posts you can schedule? Was the last question.
There is, on a purely to stop us getting barred by Meta and LinkedIn. Each platform is, each workspace is limited to 100 posts a day on each platform. So 100 posts on, which is probably more than enough in most cases.
That's fair enough. Yes, I don't think I'll be doing more than that.
Yeah,
that's great. Okay, there are lots of questions still coming in. Poor Rick is trying to keep up with them. Is it okay if people email you if they have any questions or suggestions or anything that they would like to see happen in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Just put my email address directly on the. Are you sharing this in the SVA's hub?
This will be shared. So the video will be shared with everybody that has attended.
Yeah.
So yes. Yeah,
but yeah, feel free to use my email address.
Signed up, I should say.
Yeah, and we actively encourage people to get in touch, so don't feel like it has to be a last resort. And I think, sorry, the last thing to say is about pricing. I don't know if people have been asking about that. It's currently £9.95 a month plus VAT. Obviously, with Gwen's discount code, you get 10% off forever.
I've just put that in there.
Yeah, and just so you know, the price is going to go up in the early summer. Not sure to what yet, but it will be going up. But we will be exercising grandfather rights to everyone who's signed up before that happens. We'll send out announcements before we do it, a month before we do it, and that will mean that you'll pay this price forever. The only increases would be CPI from time to time, just to keep up with inflation.
Brilliant. Yeah, sorry, could you just say that price again? I think someone missed it.
Yeah, it's £9.95 plus VAT per month.
Brilliant. Yeah, lovely stuff. Great. Well, I've popped the link in there, but we'll be sending it out with the follow-up email with the link to the video as well. And yeah, all that leaves me to say really is thank you so much for joining us, guys. Like I say, I've been using this software now for a couple of months, and actually I do a lot of the SVA work on it as well, because I can keep the tabs open. So we use things like Aweber and Capsule CRM and things like that. So to be able to keep that open and to just go straight into it's just so helpful. So yeah, it's a good piece of software. It's really nice, and we are very grateful that you're building it around the VA community, and that you're listening to us and what we want to happen, because as you can see, we all have lots of ideas and questions and things we want it to do.
Yeah, you do. And sorry, I was just going to say, I feel like you've been underrepresented on software for a long time, and you've all had to like cobble together your own bits and pieces, and everyone does something different, and we're trying to help that.
As virtual assistant software costs us a small fortune. That is the majority of our outgoing. And of course, up until this stage, we've been paying for timekeeping software, for password software, for browser, etc., etc. The list goes on. Project management. So to have something that incorporates all of that is just massively helpful. And yeah, I'm really glad that we've had an opportunity to show you guys how it all works. And if you have any questions, Adam and Rick are happy to take emails. Do get in touch with them and ask, make suggestions, whatever it is you need. I will send you an email out with the video link and the discount code. And thank you for joining us.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Good to meet you all.
You too. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.